G'day there guys, Marky here, back again with another episode of r/Tree Lore. Now if you love tree lore like I do, then say tree lore in the comments because tree lore is the new religion. I have nothing else to say, sit back, relax and prepare to get mad, call an arborist and do whatever we do because tree lore. Well, since you guys voted tree lore over entitled people, you guys get tree lore today, congratulations. Posted by user Vinny for the win, titled, Neighbor cut tree roots, tree fell to its death. My neighbor cut some large roots that were growing under his fence. There were 3 or 4 roots cut, ranging from 4 inches to 1 foot diameter. The cut roots and property line were approximately 1 foot from the base of the tree. I'm not sure when he cut the roots, but the tree fell and now has to be removed. The tree was a willow, approximately 60 feet high, and approximately 2.5 feet diameters at its base. The tree had a slight lean directly opposite to where the roots were cut. He admitted to trimming the roots on his side. He did not use an arborist to do so, and it's quite visibly cut, in my layman's opinion, from the pictures. Do I have any legal recourse? How can I prove his cutting of the roots impacted an otherwise healthy tree? I've taken lots of pictures, insurance won't even cover the cost of removal, capped at $1,000 for tree removal. There was some other minor damage to a different neighbor's shared fence, shared with me, damage to a wishing well, and damage to my shed. Aside from the tree, the damage is relatively minor. I'm very upset about losing such an old and beautiful tree. Any advice would be appreciated. This happened 1 week ago in Manitoba, Canada. I can post pictures if that would help. Edit, added location, edit 2. Thanks everyone for the helpful comments. I have posted some pictures in case anyone is interested in providing more feedback. Only picture I have prior to the fall, tree is on the far right between the shed and the wishing well, so it's just in that corner over there. This is the tree post falling over, and here is view from neighbor's side showing cut roots. This is the view of the base, and angle showing the roots were cut in line with the fence. Oh, that is one clean cut along the base of the root, Jesus Christ. What cruel neighbors. Not a lawyer, just know a lot about aquatic systems. This could be worse than you think depending on where the tree was and how close it was to your house. Willow trees love water. They're great trees to have if you got a wet spot in your yard. They just soak it up like a giant leafy sponge. With the tree gone, you may start seeing excess water pooling in your yard. That being said, willows have a way of twirling their roots toward any water, and that includes drainage systems around your house. They can create cracks in the foundation that often go unnoticed. If it got that far, those roots will eventually die too and leave the cracks exposed. Then you'll start to see some flooding, usually in the basement. For the sake of your house and for the proper documentation in the future, it may be prudent to have an expert come check your foundation and basement sooner rather than later. In general, if you see any weird water-related issues happening on your property, document it as much as you can. Pictures, date, time, map your property, and mark where it's happening, etc. These are serious damages that you might be able to claim, but if it's bad enough to damage your house, you should get a lawyer who can give real advice. Sounds like if there is a legitimate case against the neighbor, all of those expenditures should be paid by the neighbor. Go get that lawyer first thing. Even if the roots are on my property destroying my yard? Curious. My understanding is that you need to document actual damage, infiltrating your sewer and water lines, damaging your foundation, etc., and give the tree property owners the opportunity to fix it or give permission for you to fix it. If damages to your property continue after they've given notice and failed to act, all further damage costs are payable by the tree owner for negligence. In court, that is. You're still potentially going to have to shell out contractor payments yourself if homeowners insurance drags their feet. You gotta be minding your property and mitigating any damage that is caused to the best of your ability, i.e. not just hacking away major root systems of a pesky tree. Well, see, that's the thing. Damage done by roots only, and the necessary efforts to mitigate those damages are presumably far less impactful than the damage inflicted when said roots are cut and the 2.5-inch round tree falls over. Not to mention, at that width, it's pretty easy to assume the tree has been there quite a long time. Maybe even before you bought the house next door. You can't intentionally change something on your property that inflicts serious damage or danger to neighboring properties. That's not just covered in various laws, it's decency and common sense. I am not a lawyer. I've heard that even though the tree is not on someone else's property but the roots are, the other property owner has an obligation to not injure the tree or roots in a way to cause damage or they would be liable. In this case, depending on state law and case law, he would probably be liable. As someone else said, first talk to a real estate attorney or a local arborist to see if that is the case. Nonetheless, make sure you have a good bit of proof for the cuts of the roots and their location before the tree feel. The tree really do be feeling right now. Not a lawyer, but an arborist, and what you said is correct. Property line pruning is legal and acceptable as long as the health of the tree is not compromised. Not only would cutting the roots of the size impact the tree's vigor, leading to its death, it greatly impacts the structure of the tree. The tree fell over, limbs didn't fall out. Its vigor probably didn't even have time to be effective. With a lean in the opposite direction, that's a recipe for disaster. The weight had an advantage. When its anchor was removed, all it would take is wet soil and a gust of wind. That's scary. Talk to a lawyer first, then agree on sending a certified arborist out there to look at the tree. They would most likely do the removal too. If he or she is ISA certified, they would corroborate that the root damage had a direct cause of the tree falling. Also, think about the monetary value of having a fully mature tree. Just because the removal cost $1,000 and there was other damage doesn't mean your tree wasn't worth money either. You definitely have a case to get much more of a lawsuit based on the value of the tree. If your neighbor is a dick, you can absolutely screw him. Good luck. I'm truly sorry about your tree. Hope that helped you, tree law enthusiasts. Our next post is by user Methuselarity, titled Questions about Possible Future Recourse. My house backs up to some undeveloped wooded land. On that land, not ours, we had a survey to be sure, is a very large cherry tree that has a significant lean to it over my property. As it stands now, if it falls, there is a good chance it will damage my neighbor's house or mine. We are also putting in a fence this summer, so if it falls, that will guaranteed be damaged. My neighbor knows the property owner and reached out to him for me, but the property owner said he's not going to cut it down, but I'm allowed to if I want to. I'd like to have it cut down, but I do not want to pay $1,500 to $2,000 to cut a tree down that doesn't originate on my property. We had an estimate. My question is, if in the future it falls and damages my property, will that property owner be liable, or will I? I don't know the law regarding a tree that hangs into my yard but does not originate on my property. Any advice would be appreciated, thanks. Location would be helpful, but I can offer some general advice. If the tree falls and causes damage, your homeowner's insurance should take care of it. It would be your responsibility to remove the part of the tree that was on your property though. Since it's a large cherry tree, why don't you try to find someone who will take it for the wood? Certainly would offset the cost. Thank you, that's a good idea. I'm located in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. If you do find someone willing to remove the tree in exchange for the wood, be sure to have a letter from the proper owner authorizing you to remove the tree and keep the wood. Good call. Tough part is that I'm only home every other week, and I'm trying to get a fence installed as soon as possible as we just got a dog. So I have messages out to the landowner, a lawyer friend, an arborist, fence supply companies, and a contractor for retaining wall that's necessary. Not sure I'll hit pay dirt offering the wood, but worth a shot. I believe cherry wood has been used as material for fence. Maybe look into that. Honestly, you probably won't find an arborist that will safely take it down for the wood. It's not worth enough and would require additional processing to even make it worth something. You might get a guy with a saw and no insurance. When you get a tooth pulled, will the dentist take the tooth for payment? It's a good point. I own a tree company in Arkansas, and we get this question a lot. Should be able similar in PA. A reputable tree company can confirm, but in Arkansas, if your neighbor's tree falls on your property, it is typically your responsibility. However, if you can prove that you communicate the risk to the property owner, they choose not to address the issue and their tree does fall, the property owner legally could be liable. I would recommend mailing the property owner a certified letter stating the hazard. Ideally, the letter would be drafted by an attorney to properly motivate them. Insurance. If the tree falls and damages a structure, fence, house, shed, then the property owner with the damage would file a claim through their policy. It doesn't matter whose tree it is. You are responsible to pay your deductible. It can vary by policy, but most of the time, insurance will cover removing the tree from the structure and $500 toward hauling off the debris. Repairs to the structure can vary. Some policies are better than others. If a tree falls, and it doesn't matter whose, and doesn't land on a structure, insurance will not cover removing the tree debris. It is considered an act of God. Thank you so much. I will look into having a letter drafted by an attorney. In Tennessee, you need a certified arborist to make a determination of the tree's health. If you don't have a determination from an arborist, even if the tree is clearly dead and dying, it's a lot harder to prove negligence and can be ruled an act of God. If it has a risk of failure, the arborist can send a certified letter to the neighbor informing them of the hazards, which shifts liability to them. It's a good idea to retain a copy of the letter for your records and send one to your homeowner's insurance as well, so they are aware of the problem in case the neighbor decides to ignore the letter and the tree does fail. This is where things can get complicated. Now, say your neighbor decided that since it is just a large chunk of land without a structure on it, why bother insuring it? Well, your homeowner's insurance now has proof that your neighbor knew that this tree was going to damage your house when it fell, so they won't pay for repairs as he is now liable. But he doesn't have insurance and now personally owes them tens of thousands of dollars in repairs, which he might not be able to pay. Now you are stuck with a demolished house, your insurance won't pay, and he can't pay either. That's all hypothetical, but it is a real-world scenario to be thinking about. Best advice, talk to a lawyer and a certified arborist. Thanks, I'll definitely have a certified arborist come look at the tree. Typically, homeowners would pay out as falling tree damage is a covered loss, and then look to recover their loss from the other property owner. I hope we all learned something that's very epic. Alright, now this one isn't particularly tree law, but it is posted by Oogieville, and it's titled, "Neighbor Instructed Their Loggers to Destroy My Yard." Last October, my neighbor hired a logger to do work in their yard. Neighbors told loggers to come through our yard to access their yard without my permission, and the logging truck destroyed my lawn. The loggers are a dead end, and they are unlicensed. Want to take the neighbors to small claims for damages instead. Edits. 1. I am in New York State. 2. Not actually a logging company, they're operating unlicensed. 3. Various formats and spelling, on mobile, apologies. 4. Clarification. 5. Wow, this got a lot more traction than I would have expected. I'm reading and considering everyone's replies. Thank you for all the robust discussion and considerations. Sue both the neighbor and the logging company. Originally, we were going to sue the logging company, but then we did some digging and the guy has multiple felonies with a crazy rap sheet. We'd never see a cent out of him and don't really want the trouble of dealing with him. Does it hurt our case to just sue the neighbor? It really does hurt your case. One of the general reasons you sue both potential defendants is to keep your case intact when they both point to each other. In this instance, if you just sue the neighbor, his potential defense of, "I don't know what the contractor did, I just told him to do the job and trusted him on how to do it," would be complete and very likely effective. How can you hire a contractor, then not be liable for what they do? Honestly, that doesn't even make sense to me. I hire a contractor in many or most cases, specifically because I don't know how to do what they do. They're the expert. And certainly, fundamentally, the person who does the damage is the person liable for it. Any other outcome here would require some specific provision of statute creating that. From what I'm reading, if you hire an unlicensed and unbonded contractor, you're liable for the damage they do. Is that not correct? That is, in many cases, generally correct. How that might apply in this situation is uncertain. More importantly, the advice is to sue them both. No one is saying leave the neighbor out, they're saying that suing the neighbor without the contractor is a bad strategy. How is the logging company a dead end? They were the ones that drove across your private property without permission. If they allege that your neighbor improperly gave them permission, they can go after your neighbors after they pay you. Are they a real company, or some guys with a truck and a chainsaw? Some guy with a truck and a chainsaw. Also with multiple felonies and an extensive rap sheet we learned after looking into him. Not looking for that kind of trouble. Jesus. Firstly, this is not necessarily a small claims action. You have a trespass claim and damages to your lawn. Depending on where you live in New York, I'm guessing upstate or one of the western downstate counties based on the loggers, but I assume you might be in Westchester. The jurisdictional limit may be $3,000 for small claims, $5,000 in the cities. If your lawn will cost more than that to repair, you should file a New York Supreme. If you haven't had a landscaper out to offer you an estimate yet, and what are you waiting for? Do so. Once you know what the damages are, you're in a better position to understand where to file. Second, if the damages include trees owned by you, well boy howdy is this the forum for you. Trees can be very expensive to replace, and an arborist should be hired to determine the value of any trees lost. Hopefully, you have photos to show the age, size, and location of the trees before cut down. Third, the tree company may be liable to you for fraud under the New York Genbus Law, Section 349H. I suggest you speak with an attorney in your area before filing anything, and good luck. Yeah, seriously regret not filing a police report for the trespass as soon as it happened. Lesson learned on taking immediate action. You guessed right, upstate. Westchester is my second home though, and I miss it a lot. The damage did not include our trees, thankfully, although it would have been nice to make the front page. I'm gonna say that it counts as tree law because there was a threat to the tree's health from this felon. Grrr. And our next post is by FearLord420, titled, Naples tree is half dead and killing all plants of what can I do? What? Killing? Is that like an Irish name? Hello everyone. You can see by the title, the water coming in. My neighbor has a dead tree in their yard, and thanks to whatever parasite is infecting the tree, it's killing all the plants in my backyard that I try to plant. Zucchini, bell peppers, green beans, tomatoes, all the works. Toss it in a salad, eat it up. And their stupid tree is keeping killing all the plants. They were trees have grown alchemist role, and weak intention because, well, tree law. I'm yet to ask them about the posing tree because I want to know all my options before I go and confront them. Please help. Also for grandma issue on mobile. You tell him, Granny. I really must know more about this alchemist tension FearLord420, the grandma on mobile. Can confirm this happens to me every time I'm on mobile. You're in Naples, Italy or Naples, Florida? Do you know what kind of parasite this tree has? Okay, let's give this a shot. I'm pulling off a Dr. House here. Juglone toxicity. The tree is a black walnut. As it's decaying, juglone is spreading through the soil. Juglone is particularly toxic to plants like peppers, tomatoes, and eggplants. Juglone is naturally produced by black walnuts. That soil will be barren to any plant that is susceptible to it for a while, probably a season or two. Try snap peas, carrots, beets, parsnips, onions, melon, or squash. Are you okay? I had a stroke? The Naples tree is causing a stroke. This, ladies and gentlemen, is why I make tree law posts. People lose their whack. Posted by user Yemez25, titled, Neighbor's tree encroaching on our service, power line. There is an adjacent rental property that has a tree in the backyard about 12 inches from the property line, and a large overhanging branch is touching and deflecting our service line to our house. Several small limbs are also future concerns. Denver, Colorado. 1. Who is responsible for the cost of removing the concerning limbs? 2. How do I get a hold of the owner to request the removal, it being a rental? 3. How far back do limbs need trimmed back from high voltage residential service lines? Thanks in advance. Edit. Thank you for the consensus. I will reach out to the tenants for the owner's contact information and keep my fingers crossed. Maybe try calling the power company to see if they'll take care of it for free. I'm a CSR for a power company. Our policy is that if it is the service drop line that runs pole to the house, it is the homeowner's responsibility. We will come in and roll back the line so the trimming company can do their thing, but we will only trim trees that are encroaching on, less than 10 feet away, from poles to power lines. OP would probably want to seek out the owner of the property and get their permission to trim the tree, or tell them to do it. If the power company catches wind of the service drop being unsafe, they can roll back service until it's done. I also work for a power company. We will handle anything up to the meter. We actively discourage tree maintenance near lines by property owners. We are in a rural area and our state already has too many issues with AG equipment causing contact events. It won't be pretty though. Anything within 10 feet on the sides and beneath, as well as anything above at all, will be gone. Our insurance company told us we can take anything within 20 feet if we really want to, and they'll happily respond if a property owner complains. Insurers really don't like contact events. And here's answers to the OPs 1, 2, and 3. 1. As others have stated, check with the power company. In my area, one provider maintains the vegetation around the service line, and in another city, it's the homeowner's responsibility. 2. Ask the tenants. They know how to contact the landlord or the property management company. 3. The hazard you want to address is the limb touching the line, as that will disrupt your service and possibly damage the line. I would recommend asking the limb be trimmed back as far as possible to the trunk unless an arborist recommends against it. I moved into a new house last year. When I met my new neighbor, before they knew I owned a tree company, they let me know they had a tree company scheduled to address their tree limbs that were touching my service line. People will generally do the right thing if asked nicely. Unfortunately, there's still a lot of dickbags out there too. I own a tree company in Arkansas and rental properties. And our next post by BaseCat75, titled Tree Cutting Neighbor. Hi folks. Our back fence neighbor has reached into our yard and made several cuts to one of our privacy trees. It has created a large hole in the middle of a 14-foot evergreen. We were in the process of having several additional privacy trees installed and noticed the cuts yesterday while measuring for the additional trees. We asked the neighbor about it and they admitted to making the cuts. We expressed to them that this was not okay and that they absolutely did not have permission of any kind to ever trim the trees on our side of the fence. These are not cuts of limbs that were growing on their side. These are cuts made almost all the way down to the trunk, at least a foot into our side of the fence. We are now cautious of spending $700+ to have additional trees installed if they can just reach over and chop holes into them too. We are wondering when and if we need to take some sort of legal action. Do we have a lawyer send them a letter, file a police report, trespassing and property damage, file in small claims court for tree damage, or is there any advice someone can give for this situation? What would our next steps be? Any help is greatly appreciated. Pictures of the hole in the tree close up, and from a distance for perspective. Thank you in advance, Portland, Oregon. God, who needs privacy when you just have a big gaping hole through your privacy tree? Jeez. Yep, we're allowed to do that here. We can do what we want. Haha, take the law into my own hands. 1. Your neighbor is a dong. 2. Look into the property lines and whatnot to assure it's on your property. 3. I don't have any experience or knowledge, but higher up forces should be able to take care of this problem, so yes. I encourage you reaching out and getting advice, and possibly sue for damages done. Good luck and keep us updated, if you would be so kind. Yes, this is the best way of action. I've read many of these, and they all get a lawyer and things like that. The best way of action is to look into the property line, and if it shows that the tree is on your property, you can get a lawyer and go to court. And OP replies, "Thanks, folks. We spoke to a lawyer, and they told us that a police report might escalate things further and wouldn't do much if we ended up in small claims court. They advised against that unless the neighbors started getting creepy and such. Peeping Tom type stuff, you know? If we wanted to hire a lawyer to write a stern letter, then we could go that route, and that they would be happy to do it for free, but then again, it might escalate, and wouldn't be much good in a small claims. There is a language barrier between us and the neighbors, and that confounds the issue as well. We are thinking of maybe having an arborist come out and give an assessment of the damages, and advise if what was done would kill the tree. If the tree dies because of what they did, then it would be worth going to court. Otherwise, good fences and all." Posted by user Yours Truly Jar Jar, titled Tree on the dentist's property had a branch fall and knock out power. They came and restored power, cut a bunch of limbs off, about half on my property. Do I wait till Monday to see if the dentists are going to pay for the removal of all the limbs? Oh my god, that tree has just been decimated, hasn't it? That is brutal. If the power company removed the limbs, then that's who you need to contact. Not sure where OP lives, but when a similar situation happened to me, the power company here in Maine told me it is the property owner's responsibility to remove the debris. I asked if they meant the tree owner or the owner of the property where the branches were left. You guessed it, I was responsible as the lucky owner of the yard the branches were left in. In my case, the tree owner lives out of state, owns a wooded lot across the street from me. I called my father over with his chainsaw, chunked up the wood, threw it back onto the lot across the street. I would hope, though, that if you have a nice neighborly relationship, the tree owner would pay for removal, especially if approached nicely. In most cases, tree stuff that ends up in your property is your problem if they were overhanging your property. The same is true if something like a storm knocked an apparently healthy tree onto your property. So if these limbs overhung your property, then you're responsible for them. In Australia, the tree owner is responsible for damage. I had a huge gum that lost some big branches in a storm that damaged my neighbour's fence and back shed. The owners of my rental had to pay through their insurance to repair both and to have the tree removed, which actually cost more than the repairs. Posted by user Larisarin, titled Tree Damage Advice. There's this tree outside my apartment that has storm damage and its trunk is split vertically. Does it need to be removed or pruned? Yeah, I'm so sure it's so safe to keep that tree there, what with all those cars underneath it and a split trunk that probably is slowly going to keep getting damaged over time. Let's keep that one there. Arborist. Yes, the tree will not heal. It's been left too long to try to repair. Should be removed, probably waiting till their annual trim to remove it. At that size, I wouldn't be too worried about it. It will fall on the roof. Yeah, I would have given them the benefit of the doubt if they hadn't done a huge trimming of trees on the property a month ago. I'm not a certified arborist, but I would say yes in my personal opinion. You could talk the complex maintenance or manager to get an arborist out there to assess the tree. They may want to cable or brace it to help heal the wound if they want to keep the tree bad enough. Okay, thank you, but I've brought concerns to the property management a few times already and they just ignore me. So I wanted to make sure it's actually not okay as is before I make a bigger stink about it. I don't know much about trees, but this just doesn't seem safe. Send a registered letter to your property management voicing your concerns about liability and damage to your vehicle from the tree. Keep receipts and record of what was sent. Maintain pictures with a time-date stamp and you should be covered if anything happened. It looks bleak, but at the same time that limb will not crush your car completely. It'll break the awning and make you unable to remove the car without further damage or work to extract. Contact property management manager, insurance, and take notes. On the other hand, it was the non-dominant leader that was removed, and the tree could begin to thrive if it has the proper attention. In the woods, some beautiful trees have evidence of traumatic events that survived hundreds of years after. You never know. In the real world, most likely property management wants a tree, and if a real fuss is made, then they will remove and replace in-house rather than hiring a real arborist. There is no one correct answer for your car, your property manager, and the tree. Edit. On a third look, the tree looks worse than I thought. The remaining bole does not look good. Posted by Jahacker, titled Article from today's Private Eye about the Save the M32 Maples campaign. Maple syrup. Bristol prides itself on its green credentials, so environmental campaigners can't understand why the city council has stood by while a developer cut down mature trees standing in the way of his housing project, despite them being covered by preservation orders. Activists also say a council property records clearly show its highway department, not the developer, owns the trees and their surviving companions. A lawyer hired by the M32 Maples Group notes, the parcel of land, allegedly, owned by the developer Mr. Garlick, has expanded since its purchase in October 2005 by an additional 26 square meters. This represents the land on which the trees are sited. The authority denies this, along with any suggestion that the developer acquired the strip of land in question without due process. But activists have reported planning official to Avon and Somerset Police, which is investigating their allegations of misconduct in public office. They are also considering seeking judicial review of the council's actions. the campaigners say elected Mayor Marvin Rees would need to plant 160 trees just to replace the 5 mature maples. 2 have been felled and the other 3 remain at risk, with campaigners maintaining a vigil at the site. The trees grow alongside Lower Ashley Road, a busy route between the M32 and the city centre. It runs through St. Paul's, where almost 1 in every 2 young people attending the Docklands Youth Club reports having asthma. How is having asthma relevant to this situation? That's a crazy stat about the asthma if true. Wouldn't surprise me. The link between exposure to traffic pollution in childhood and asthma is really, really strong. It's because of the push over the last 25 years to buy diesels, because they produce marginally less carbon dioxide. The fact that they emit a screw load of PM 2.5, etc., was of little consideration when the policy was started. When it became apparent that the non-greenhouse gas emissions from diesel were so incredibly poisonous, diesel particulate filters became more and more required. There's no enforcement on DPFs though. I'd bet £1,000 that if you pulled over 5 diesel taxis in Bristol, all 5 would have their DPF disabled. DPFs don't work very well around town, and for short journeys anyways. That combined with the lean and rich mixture of fiddling and cheat devices means modern diesels can be very dirty indeed, whatever it says on paper. What is it with local authority planning departments? I can't think of any other public sector body where we get worse value for money. Yup, they literally do the opposite of the right thing to do. Small extensions on house in the middle of nowhere, denied. Massive developments only benefiting the investors with lots of objections, go right ahead. We will even pay you to do it. I'm not a planner, but I've worked in the sector. Unfortunately, many local authorities stripped down their planning teams after the cuts started coming in after the 2010 election. Often they lost experienced people, and the pressure from many elected officials and central government policy is in favour of development even when it's of low quality. That's so true. Apparently in Bristol Council there are just 3 planning officers, 1 head and 2 juniors, who pretty much have full say over everything. No committee, no oversight keeping them in check, and it doesn't matter if it's a garage extension or a new block of offices. Is there a tree law in the Philippines? Aw, that tree really did get done dirty though, where's all its leaves at? Bruh. My girlfriend's neighbors just cut their Mantinigua tree's branches without telling them. Mantingia. When they confronted their neighbor, he said that the tree was already leaning and has a tendency to fall on their house. It just has a tendency to fall, we just put it back up. I know that my girlfriend's side should have taken care of the tree, but I don't think that their neighbor has the right to cut the tree down without telling them. Need help or clarification? Your girlfriend's family should have taken care of the tree. To add, it's looked to be in the box of the power line. It should probably be fully removed, if so, as it will require most of the tree to be cut and is leaning in that direction already. Yes, I told her, but the main problem is that their neighbor proceeded to cut the tree without even talking to them. In most places, you can cut the branches hanging over your property without having to notify the owner of the tree. You just can't destroy the tree, but trimming a few branches on your side of the tree is legal in most of the world, I guess. It wasn't. They were afraid that if the tree fell, it would hit their house fence. Okay? Bozeman MT. I'm currently renting the end unit. The right side of the fence is private property. Can I trim the branches that are leading over the fence? Lawn mowers won't trim close to the fence because of the branches hanging down. Typically, you're able to trim branches overhanging onto your property as long as the trimming will not negatively impact the health of the tree. When you say lawn mowers won't get close enough to the fence, I'm guessing you mean the landscaping company? I'm also assuming, based on the photo, this is a common area and not part of the property you rent. I'd be careful trimming anything without going through the landlord. They can contact the landscaper to do a better job getting close to the fence and handle the overhanging branches if they are in the way. Edit, additional comment, the branches aren't the issue for the mower getting close to the fence. They need a weed trimmer to get those edges. Don't be a bad neighbor. Just weed whack along the edge if you want a perfect lawn. It would take less time and energy and be far more attractive. The title implies that the individual posting is not doing the actual mowing. They need to talk to their landlord who can work it out with the landscaping company. If OP was doing the work themselves, then I would agree with you 100%. You are perfectly right, but plants can grow out of control over time and become more difficult to manage. Communication with the other party is key, but any conversation OP has with them will be more productive if OP is reasonable, respectful, and properly appraised of the property rules. OP says, "Thank you all for the advice. I just wanted to add some more details on this to clear some questions up. The private property is actually a Montessori school. I am willing to contact them about trimming their trees, but I am unsure who I would speak to regarding that aspect. As for the lawn mowing, I was referring to the lawn maintenance company. The apartment complex is part of an HOA, so they are the ones who figure out all that fun stuff. I'm not really well versed about HOA laws, but I'm guessing that they would be the ones to talk to about trimming trees. I do not own any weed whackers or lawn mowers. I do, however, have branch cutters, which would be the easiest way to solve this. I've worked on a lawn maintenance crew myself, and I have an idea of what it's like mowing lawns and why they don't get near the overhanging branches. Thanks for the advice." G'day there guys, Outro Marky here. Hope you enjoyed the episode as much as I enjoyed making it today. If you did, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Tell me what you thought about it down below. Also, if you like memes, be sure to head on over to my second channel, Marky2. It should be one of the sexy Australian faces on screen, the one without the flag. It's my latest and greatest creation, and I hope you like it. Also, I'd like to give a huge shout out to my channel members and Patreon subscribers. You guys do so much good for me, and the support goes without saying, but I'm gonna say it anyway. I love you guys, and I appreciate all the help and support you provide me on this channel. Also, if you want to join the family, links are down in the description below, or click that join button next to the subscribe button. Anyway guys, I hope you enjoyed that one today. I'll see you in the next one. Bye!